Secret phone exposed 2 years of lies. My cheating wife blamed me, so I kicked her out. My story of betrayal, lies, and unbreakable peace. Alright, Reddit. Buckle up, because I'm about to spill my guts about a situation that has absolutely obliterated my world, and I need to get it out. This is a throwaway, obviously. Been married to Sarah for 10 years, together for 13. We met in college, fell head over heels, built a life together, bought a house, the whole 9 yards. Or so I thought. For most of it, honestly, it was good. Not perfect, no marriage is, but we were a team. We laughed, we argued, we made up. She was vibrant, funny, a little fiery, which I always found endearing. I thought she was my person, my forever. Lately, though, things have been off. For the past year, maybe a bit longer, a coldness started seeping in. It began subtly. Less laughter, more snide remarks. What used to be playful teasing morphed into genuinely cutting comments. If I asked her about her day, it felt like an interrogation to her. Her phone became her third limb, constantly clutched, often face down when I walked into a room. She'd always been a bit private, but this felt different, guarded, distant. I tried to talk to her. Hey, babe, everything okay? You seem a bit stressed. Her usual response would be a dismissive wave or a sharp, I'm fine, just leave it. If I pushed, even gently, it'd escalate. Are you implying I'm not doing enough? Are you judging me now? Her defensiveness was through the roof. It was like walking on eggshells around her, trying to navigate a minefield of unpredictable moods. One moment, she'd be perfectly pleasant. The next, a switch would flip, and I'd be on the receiving end of a barrage of passive-aggressive comments about my job, my hobbies, my very existence. It was exhausting. I started wondering if I was the problem, if I was just not being enough for her, or if I'd done something to make her resent me so much. I even suggested counseling, hoping to bridge the growing chasm between us. She scoffed. Counseling? For what? You're the one with the issues, not me. And that was that. The conversation, like so many others, was dead on arrival. The silence that followed was always heavier than the words. The woman I married seemed to be slipping away, replaced by a stranger who looked like her but harbored a deep-seated contempt. I started coming home later from work, just to delay facing the tension that hung in our house like a thick fog. That dull ache in my chest became a constant companion. The real gut punch came unexpectedly, as these things always do. It was a Tuesday evening, a night like any other, or so I thought. Sarah had been particularly prickly that day, snapping at me about the grocery list, then complaining that I hadn't done enough around the house. Even though I'd spent my lunch break fixing a leaky faucet she'd been nagging me about for weeks. She'd left for a girls' night out with her friend, Lisa, around 7 p.m., looking unusually dolled up. I remember thinking, asterisk, huh? She hasn't put that much effort into her appearance for me in months. Asterisk, but I brushed it off, told myself she deserved to feel good, whatever. I was in the living room, trying to unwind with some video games, when I heard a distinct thump from upstairs. I figured she'd just left something on her dresser that fell, maybe her phone. A few minutes later, my phone pinged. It was Lisa. Hey, just letting you know Sarah bailed on us last minute. Said she had a headache. Hope she's okay. My blood ran cold. Headache? She was practically buzzing with energy when she left. And she hadn't mentioned anything to me. My first thought was anger. Why lie? Why not just say she wasn't feeling it? Then came a colder, more unsettling wave of dread. I went upstairs, my heart thumping against my ribs. Her side of the bed was undisturbed, the pillow still fluffed from the morning. Her handbag was on the floor next to the dresser, gaping open a bit. I saw a small, unfamiliar rectangular object sticking out. My hand trembled as I reached for it. It was a second phone, sleek and black, definitely not hers. And it was unlocked. It must have fallen out when she tossed her bag onto the floor in a hurry. My breath hitched. I knew, instantly, what it was. This wasn't a work phone. It wasn't a spare. This was it. My stomach churned. The world tilted on its axis. My fingers, feeling numb and clumsy, scrolled through the phone. It was an iPhone, practically brand new. The wallpaper was a generic landscape, clearly chosen to be inconspicuous. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I went straight for the messages. And there it was. A string of texts, WhatsApp messages, even some deleted calls logs that the phone had somehow recovered a snippet of, all with the same contact. Client. marketing project. The marketing project turned out to be a man named Mark. The messages, they weren't about marketing. They were explicit. Pet names, declarations of longing, plans for clandestine meetings, photos I wish I could unsee. Photos of her, happy, smiling, in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. Photos of them together, in places I recognized, our favorite coffee shop, a park near our house. One particular message burned itself into my brain. Can't wait for our trip next month, my love. It'll be perfect, just the two of us. A trip? We hadn't taken a trip, just the two of us, in ages. And she'd recently mentioned a work conference she had to attend in a different city. My chest tightened, a cold, sharp pain. I scrolled further, digging into the history. Dates and times aligned perfectly with her late nights at the office, her girls' nights out, that Lisa had just debunked. Even a few times she'd claimed to be at the gym. She'd been meticulous, I'll give her that. 2 years. 2 years of lies, of gaslighting, of making me feel like I was crazy for sensing something was wrong. 2 years of watching me try to fix us while she was building a secret life with someone else. The sheer audacity of it, the level of deception, it was breathtaking. I felt like I was going to throw up. My world didn't just tilt. It shattered into a million pieces. The silence in the house, which I had once found peaceful, now felt like a suffocating shroud, a witness to my agonizing discovery. I clutched the phone, its cold metal feeling like a lead weight in my hand, as if it contained not just evidence, but the very essence of my destroyed future. I don't know how long I sat there, just staring at that phone, the words blurring on the screen, but the images burned into my mind. Time seemed to stop, then warp. My ears were ringing, and a cold sweat broke out over my skin. When I finally heard her key in the lock around midnight, a wave of nausea hit me so hard I almost didn't make it to the bathroom. I forced myself to take deep, shaky breaths, trying to compose myself, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. She walked in, humming a little tune, looking flushed and happy. Her eyes, usually so sharp and critical towards me, were soft and dreamy. "Hey," she said, tossing her bag onto the usual spot by the door. Girls' night was okay. Lisa's being a drama queen about her ex again. You know how she is. She gave a little dismissive sigh, starting to take off her shoes. "Oh, really?" My voice came out raspy, completely unlike my own. She paused, then looked up, finally seeming to notice the tension radiating off me. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "What's wrong with you?" she asked, her tone already shifting, hardening. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I stood up, holding her secret phone in my hand, still open to the damning messages. The screen glowed in the dim hallway light, a stark spotlight on her deceit. "I think you left this behind," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but laced with a venom I didn't know I possessed. "Must have fallen out of your bag when you got home from your headache with Lisa." Her eyes went wide. The color drained from her face. All the softness, all the feigned sweetness, vanished instantly, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. For a split second, she looked utterly helpless, caught. Then, the transformation was almost instantaneous, chillingly so. Her jaw tightened, her shoulders squared, and a flicker of something truly ugly crossed her features. "What is that?" she demanded, her voice sharp and brittle, a desperate attempt at feigned ignorance. "Where did you get that?" It wasn't a question, it was an accusation, an immediate attempt to put me on the defensive. The lies were already starting, before I'd even finished my sentence. My stomach dropped even further, if that was possible. It was like watching a villain transform in a movie. Only this was real, and the villain was my wife. "Where did I get it?" I repeated, my voice rising a notch, laced with a bitter, incredulous laugh. "It was in your bag, Sarah. The one you just dumped by the door." I gestured with the phone, and it seems to be filled with rather interesting marketing project details. Like, "Can't wait for our trip next month, my love." Sound familiar? I watched her face, searching for a glimmer of remorse, a hint of shame, anything. But there was nothing. Just a flicker of fear, quickly replaced by indignation. She took a step forward, her hand reaching out as if to snatch the phone. "Give me that," she snarled, her voice low and furious. "You have no right to go through my things." "No right," I scoffed, taking a step back, keeping the phone out of her reach. After 2 years of you lying to my face, after you made me doubt my own sanity, after you built an entire secret life, I have every damn right. Tell me, Sarah, how many headaches did you have with Mark? How many work conferences were actually romantic getaways? My voice cracked, raw with emotion. Her eyes blazed. Oh, so you're going to play the victim now? You're going to twist this around and make me the bad guy? She crossed her arms, a classic defensive posture. You're always so insecure, always thinking the worst. This is exactly why I can't talk to you about anything. Her voice was shrill now, cutting through the silence of the house. Mark is just a colleague. We were working on a pitch, and he's a bit enthusiastic. He gets carried away. And the love? That's just how he talks. It's a cultural thing. My jaw dropped. The sheer audacity. A cultural thing? And the pictures, Sarah? The ones of you two kissing? Is that also a cultural thing? Or the trip you've planned? The one I know nothing about? What about the fact that Lisa just called me to say you bailed on her when you told me you were with her? The words tumbled out, a torrent of pain and accusations. I felt a surge of adrenaline, fueled by a mixture of anger and utter disbelief at her continued performance. It was a masterclass in deflection, a relentless barrage of lies designed to keep me off balance. She recoiled slightly at the mention of Lisa, a fleeting flash of something that might have been surprise, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by a fresh wave of aggression. Lisa? You're talking to Lisa about me now? You're gossiping about your wife? What kind of man does that? Her voice was laced with contempt, as if my seeking clarification from her friend was the ultimate betrayal, not her elaborate deception. And those pictures? He must have doctored them. He's obsessed with me, actually. I've been trying to get rid of him. This is a complete misunderstanding, and you, as usual, are overreacting. Overreacting. I nearly screamed the word. I find your secret phone, filled with evidence of an affair spanning 2 years, and I'm overreacting? You think I'm stupid, Sarah? You think I believe for a second that this Mark character is just an enthusiastic colleague who doctors photos and takes you on secret trips? My chest was heaving, my vision blurring at the edges. The blatant, unashamed lies were a second, deeper stab wound. It wasn't just the affair, it was her absolute refusal to own it, her immediate pivot to blame and fabrication. Her face twisted into a sneer. Honestly, this is typical of you. Always jumping to conclusions, always assuming the worst. This is why I can't stand to be around you anymore. You're suffocating, you know that? Constantly questioning everything I do, always making me feel like I'm doing something wrong. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, or to us, instead of your stupid games and complaining about my perfectly normal friendships, this wouldn't even be an issue. She pointed at the TV in the living room, a silent indictment of my stupid games. Her voice was pure venom, designed to cut, to deflect, to wound. I stared at her, utterly speechless for a moment. It was a complete reversal, a classic cheater's playbook move. Attack, project, blame the victim. The sheer audacity, the cold calculation in her eyes, shattered any lingering doubt I might have had about the depth of her betrayal. This wasn't a mistake. This was a deliberate, calculated pattern of deception, and she was going to fight tooth and nail to maintain her false narrative. The woman standing before me was a complete stranger, a venomous, manipulative stranger. My initial shock started giving way to a white-hot rage, an inferno building within me. The rage was a physical thing, a tremor starting in my hands and spreading through my entire body. It was hot, consuming, and for a terrifying second, I thought I might actually lose control. But underneath it, a profound, crushing sadness began to settle in. It was like watching a movie of my life, fast-forwarding through a decade of memories, and realizing that a huge chunk of it was built on a lie. Every affectionate gesture, every shared laugh, every promise, suddenly tainted, twisted, suspect. I dropped the phone onto the hallway floor with a clatter, the sound sharp and echoing in the suddenly silent house. You know what, Sarah? My voice was low, strained, the anger so intense it felt cold now. I'm done. I'm done with your lies. I'm done with your gaslighting. And I'm done with this sham of a marriage. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the woman I loved, but a callous stranger. You want to blame me? You want to turn this around? Go ahead. It doesn't change what you did. It doesn't change the fact that you systematically lied to me for 2 years. Her eyes narrowed to slits, and for the first time, I saw a genuine flicker of fear, or perhaps just cold calculation, in their depths. The tirade stopped. A heavy silence descended, broken only by my ragged breathing. She just stood there, arms still crossed, but her body language had shifted. The aggressive stance softened ever so slightly, replaced by a defensive rigidity. She didn't deny it this time. She couldn't. The weight of the unspoken truth hung between us, thicker than any lie she could concoct. "I need you to leave," I said, the words surprising even myself with their firmness. "Tonight. I can't look at you right now. I can't be in the same house as you." The request, the ultimatum, hung in the air, audacious and terrifying. It was a line drawn in the sand, a point of no return. I felt a strange mix of terror and liberation, as if by speaking those words, I was tearing down the crumbling facade of our life, but also setting myself free from its suffocating constraints. The pain was excruciating, but underneath it, a tiny, defiant spark of self-preservation flickered to life. Her face went from defiant to a sickly pale. "Leave? Where am I supposed to go?" The question was less about genuine concern and more about inconvenience, about me disrupting her life, her plans. There wasn't an ounce of remorse, only a self-pitying whine. "You can't just kick me out in the middle of the night." "Oh, I can," I retorted, the anger flaring again. "Because I just found out you've been living a double life for 2 years, and frankly, I don't care where you go. Lisa's place, Mark's place, a hotel. I don't care. Just not here." I pointed towards the door, my hand shaking uncontrollably. "Pack a bag. Essentials. Don't take anything that's not explicitly yours. And don't even think about touching any of my things, or anything we own jointly, without talking to my lawyer first." The mention of a lawyer seemed to hit her harder than anything else. Her eyes darted around, assessing the situation, no doubt calculating her next move. She let out a frustrated, almost theatrical sigh, like a child being told to clean their room. "Fine, if that's what you want. But don't come crying to me when you realize what a huge mistake you've made, throwing away everything we built." Her voice was dripping with manufactured righteous indignation, a final, desperate attempt to shift blame and wound me. It was a projection, a classic move to make me feel guilty for her actions. She stomped past me, heading for the bedroom. I heard drawers being yanked open and slammed shut, hangers scraping against the closet rod. It was a symphony of petty rage. I stayed in the hallway, leaning against the wall, my head spinning, the taste of bile in my mouth. My entire body ached with an exhaustion so profound it felt like I'd run a marathon. The reality of what was happening was starting to sink in, a cold, heavy weight. Our life, our future, all of it, crumbling around me like dust. The woman I had loved, respected, and built my dreams with was a stranger, a deceitful, manipulative stranger. And I was standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out how to breathe. The air felt thin, sharp, and painful in my lungs. I just wanted her gone. I needed her gone. It felt like an eternity, but in reality, it was probably only 20 minutes before she reappeared, dragging a small suitcase and her large handbag. Her face was set in a stony mask, devoid of emotion, or perhaps just carefully controlled. She avoided my gaze, which was fine by me. The less I saw of her face, the better. As she reached the front door, she paused, her hand on the doorknob. For a fleeting second, I thought, *, maybe she'll apologize. Maybe she'll break down and show some genuine regret. *, but that was just the naive, heartbroken part of me clinging to a ghost of who I thought she was. Instead, she turned her head slightly, just enough for me to catch her eye. Her expression was cold, almost contemptuous. "You know," she said, her voice low and even, "this is all your fault. If you'd just been more attentive, more exciting, more present, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." She spat the words out like venom, a final, cutting blow. "You drove me to it. You always have." And with that, without another word, without a backward glance, she opened the door and walked out into the cold night, letting the door click shut behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. Her words echoed in my ears, a cruel twist of the knife. My fault. She actually believed it. Or at least, she wanted me to believe it. My initial reaction was a fresh wave of despair and self-doubt. Had I truly been that neglectful? Had I pushed her away? But then, the anger surged again, quickly overcoming the doubt. No, no, 1,000 times no. No matter what perceived shortcomings I might have had, they did not, could not, justify years of deliberate, calculated deceit. My failures, if any, were not an excuse for her betrayal. That was her choice, her actions, and her responsibility alone. I slowly walked over to the front door, the spot where she had stood moments before, and leaned against the frame. The house felt strangely hollow, colder, even though she was gone. The air still felt thick with her lies, her disdain. But beneath the profound pain, there was also a tiny, unfamiliar glimmer. A sense of a heavy burden finally lifted. The constant walking on eggshells, the emotional abuse, the nagging feeling that something was terribly wrong. That was over. The lie was exposed. And while the truth was agonizing, it was still the truth. It was a terrible, brutal freedom, but freedom nonetheless. My future was now a blank slate, terrifyingly empty, but also unburdened by her poison. The days that followed were a blur of raw emotion. I took a few days off work, telling my boss it was a personal emergency, which felt like a colossal understatement. I couldn't focus, couldn't eat, could barely sleep. Every corner of the house seemed to hold a memory, a ghost of what we once were. I'd walk into the kitchen and remember making breakfast together. Then that memory would be immediately overshadowed by the image of her secret phone and Mark's face. It was a constant cycle of nostalgia and fresh agony. I spent hours just sitting on the couch, staring blankly ahead, or sometimes pacing the floor like a caged animal. My phone buzzed with messages from friends and family, worried because I wasn't responding, but I just couldn't bring myself to talk. How do you even begin to explain something like this? Hey, just wanted to let you know my wife of 10 years just walked out after I found out she's been cheating on me for 2 years and then blamed me for it. It felt too surreal, too devastating to vocalize. The emotional impact was a tidal wave. First, the shock, a numbing disbelief that paralyzed me. Then, a volcanic eruption of anger. Anger at her, at Mark, at myself for being so blind, so trusting. I'd punch a pillow until my knuckles ached, imagining it was her smug face. But the anger was quickly followed by an overwhelming sadness, a profound grief for the loss of my marriage, the future I thought we had, the person I thought she was. It was like a death, but worse, because the person was still alive, walking around, having moved on without a second thought for the devastation she left behind. I cried. A lot. More than I had cried in my entire adult life. Hot, angry tears that burned, then cold, silent tears that just dripped onto my shirt. The humiliation was also a heavy weight. Knowing that others knew, or would soon know, that I had been played for a fool for so long. The trust was utterly obliterated, not just in her, but a little bit in everyone. It made me question every interaction, every smile. It was a dark, lonely place. The silence in the house, once a source of terror, slowly started to feel like a necessary cocoon, a space for me to unravel without judgment. I felt broken, truly broken, into 1,000 tiny pieces. After about a week of wallowing in self-pity and pain, something shifted. It wasn't a grand epiphany, more like a slow, subtle change in the current. I was scrolling through Reddit, ironically, looking for similar stories, when I stumbled upon a comment that just clicked. Someone said, "You can't heal in the same environment that broke you." And it hit me. I was still living in our house, surrounded by our things, replaying her lies in my head. The house still felt tainted. Every room was a reminder. Every object had a shared history that now felt poisoned. I needed a change of scenery, desperately. I called my best friend, Mike, who had been sending me increasingly frantic texts. I finally picked up. I kept it brief, told him Sarah was gone, that she'd been seeing someone else. He didn't ask for details, just said, "Dude, you want to crash at my place for a bit? No questions asked, just need a couch for you to sleep on." It was exactly what I needed. Packing a bag for myself felt strangely liberating. I wasn't just leaving the house. I was leaving the immediate, suffocating weight of the past. Mike's apartment was chaotic and smelled faintly of old pizza, but it was different. It was neutral territory. Just being out of that house, away from the constant visual reminders, allowed me to breathe a little easier, even if the pain was still a gnawing presence. The decision to separate legally, To get a divorce felt like a foregone conclusion. There was no coming back from this. No amount of counseling, no heartfelt apology, which I knew would never come, could erase the years of betrayal and the utter contempt she'd shown me in her final words. My trust in her was atomized. I contacted a lawyer Mike recommended, a straightforward guy who cut right to the chase. He advised me to document everything, which I had already started doing with screenshots of the phone. He told me to brace myself, that she would likely fight, especially given her "it's your fault" narrative. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a resolve hardening inside me. This wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about self-respect, about reclaiming my life. The divorce would be messy, I knew, but it was a necessary step towards building something new, something real for myself. The legal process started exactly as the lawyer predicted, messy. Sarah, true to form, dug in her heels. She refused to acknowledge the affair, doubling down on her story of enthusiastic colleagues and doctored photos. She even tried to claim I was emotionally abusive, using my overreactions and constant questioning as proof. It was a vicious attempt to twist the narrative, to discredit me and paint herself as the wrong party. Every accusation she hurled felt like a fresh stab, but I had learned to anticipate them. My lawyer, bless his pragmatic heart, just smiled and said, "Let her. We have the evidence. Her word against yours, and your evidence against her lies." He advised me not to engage directly with her, to let him handle all communication. It was hard, resisting the urge to reply to her venomous emails that somehow found their way past the spam filter, but I stuck to it. Every time she tried to bait me, I pictured her walking out the door, blaming me for her choices, and it gave me the strength to stay silent. Mike was a rock. He didn't offer empty platitudes, just solid presence. He'd make sure I ate, drag me out for walks, or just sit in comfortable silence while I stared into space. His girlfriend, Clara, was surprisingly insightful too. She told me, "Her lies aren't about you. They're about her inability to face herself. She's projecting." That resonated. It helped me detach, to see her accusations not as reflections of my worth, but as symptoms of her own deeply flawed character. Slowly, painstakingly, the anger started to morph into something else, a dull ache. Yes, but also a growing sense of detachment. The emotional roller coaster wasn't as wild anymore. I started thinking about the future, about what I wanted. The idea of waking up without that constant tension, without the fear of her next mood swing or accusation, began to feel incredibly appealing. It was a long, arduous climb out of the abyss, but I could finally see slivers of light. The grief was still there, a heavy blanket, but I was starting to push it back, piece by piece, to let in the air. The turning point, or at least one of the major ones, came when the lawyer presented Sarah with the concrete evidence. Not just the phone, but also call logs he'd managed to subpoena, confirming calls between her and Mark at times she was supposedly elsewhere, and even some credit card statements showing hotel bookings in her name, matching her work conference dates that were conspicuously not paid for by her company. The proof was irrefutable. Her defiance finally crumbled. Not gracefully, not with an apology, but with a furious, wounded roar. She called me from a blocked number, screaming, accusing me of trying to ruin her life, of being vindictive. "You're disgusting. You have no right to dig into my private life like this. You're trying to destroy me." It was a desperate, enraged outburst, the last gasp of a cornered animal. My lawyer had warned me this might happen, and it was still jarring, but it also solidified my resolve. Her anger wasn't genuine remorse. It was rage at being caught. I hung up, shaking, but also feeling a strange sense of vindication. She couldn't deny it anymore. The truth was out, ugly and brutal, but it was out. This marked a significant shift in the legal process. Her leverage was gone. We moved quickly towards a settlement. It wasn't perfect. I had to compromise on some things I didn't want to, but it was fair, and most importantly, it was final. The day the divorce papers were signed felt surreal. No big celebration, no emotional outburst. Just a quiet, numb acknowledgement that a decade of my life was officially closed. I sat in my lawyer's office, initialing documents, my hands steady. It wasn't happiness I felt, but a profound sense of relief, like a deep, infected wound had finally been cleaned and bandaged. The pain was still there, a phantom ache, but the bleeding had stopped. I drove home from the lawyer's office, not to Mike's, but to my own house. The house still held memories, but now, they felt less like shackles and more like echoes. They were part of my history, not ours anymore. It was time to start rebuilding. The acceptance wasn't a sudden flood. It was a slow, quiet seep, a gentle turning of the tide. Rebuilding wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't linear. There were days, weeks even, where the grief would hit me like a physical blow, sending me spiraling back to square one. I'd see a couple holding hands, or hear a song we used to love, and the pain would resurface, sharp and raw. But those periods became shorter, less frequent. I started therapy, which was probably the best decision I made. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Evans, didn't try to minimize my pain, but helped me process it, gave me tools to cope, and most importantly, helped me understand that her actions were not a reflection of my worth. I also started rediscovering myself. I picked up old hobbies I'd abandoned, playing guitar, hiking. I started going to the gym consistently, not out of vanity, but because the physical exertion helped clear my head and release some of the pent-up emotional energy. I reconnected with friends I'd let slide during the marriage and formed new friendships. It felt like I was slowly, painstakingly, putting together a puzzle, but this time, I was choosing the pieces. One unexpected outcome was a sense of clarity. The toxic patterns in our marriage, the constant criticism, the emotional manipulation, I could see them clearly now, without the fog of love or loyalty. I realized how much emotional energy I had poured into trying to appease her, trying to fix us, when she was fundamentally unwilling to engage. It was like living under a dark cloud, and now, the sun was starting to peek through. The house slowly began to feel like my home again. I rearranged furniture, got rid of things that held too many painful memories, and slowly started to fill it with things that brought me joy. It wasn't about erasing her, but about reclaiming the space for myself. The decision to move forward wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving, about building a life that was authentic and joyful, unburdened by the constant weight of someone else's deceit. It was a conscious, daily choice to choose myself. One day, about a year after she left, I was at the grocery store. I turned a corner, pushing my cart, and there she was. Sarah. She was with Mark. They were holding hands, laughing, looking exactly like they did in those pictures on her secret phone. My breath hitched. It was the first time I'd seen her in person since she walked out that door. For a split second, the old feelings threatened to surface. The anger, the hurt, the humiliation. My heart hammered in my chest. I felt a surge of adrenaline, my palms suddenly sweaty. I just wanted to duck behind a shelf, to disappear. But then, I took a deep breath. I looked at her, really looked at her, and something profound happened. There was no sting, no longing, just recognition. She looked different, older somehow, and the way she was laughing with him, it wasn't the vibrant, genuine laugh I used to cherish. It was brittle, almost forced. A performance. They didn't see me. I stood there, watching them for another moment, then I just walked past. I didn't hide, didn't confront. I just kept walking, put my groceries in the cart, and moved on. It wasn't an act of defiance or even forgiveness. It was simply an act of indifference. I realized, in that moment, that she no longer held any power over me. Her presence, her choices, her new life, they were utterly irrelevant to mine. That night, I went home and didn't think about them. I made myself dinner, watched a movie, and went to bed feeling peaceful. Not happy, necessarily, but calm. The knot in my stomach that had been a constant companion for years was finally gone. It was a strange, quiet victory, a testament to the slow, arduous work of healing. I had faced my demon, and it had turned out to be just a ghost. A past, not a present.